what can't decay. No, feel the fury inside, try to bury my pride, but I'll rob the grave. Death, become my blade once more. Carrying a cross and the hilt's already fading. Leather in my grip, I never miss my swing. River running red from the dead, escaping. Heaven or hell, take the land between. And I bear this weight that I'm under, and no force could tempt a kneel. I bend for honor only, no this seal is not real. This shattered will define a spirit burning and honest. My demons paralyzed, terrified. They branded sacrifice, so tarnished early and often. My fury justified. Sealed up my fate and break the embers of silence. My blade remembers. Temper my crown, yeah. I wield what can't decay. No, feel the fury inside, try to bury my pride, but I'll rob the grave. My skin to stone, my flesh to onyx. This gravity is daunting. The poison breath, this blind of death cannot infect my conscience. Cause I've been here before, bloodstains on altar doors. And I wish I was more, but I jail my doubts and Aaron's sword, yeah. This shattered will define a spirit burning and honest. My demons paralyzed, terrified. They branded sacrifice, so tarnished.
In the words of the almighty Beyonce, I don't know what it is with this evening, but I am feeling myself. I don't know. I'm in such a great mood,
Awesome.
Will. I don't know why, but you know what? We're going to get this energy to carry us through tonight because we got another exciting episode for all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there. Hello, good evening, bienvenidos. Welcome to another episode of the Takedown Troupe, your weekly TNA wrestling review show here at the BC WrestlePod YouTube, Twitch conglomeration, social media empire. We are the bards of the professional wrestling review world. We are a jack of all trades, master of none here at BC WrestlePod. And you know, we pull things out of our keister half the time anyway. So you know what? Welcome. And I am super excited to be doing another episode with my lovely co-host, my right-hand man, my better half, my twinsy, if you will. We are tag teaming this episode, but Papa Oso himself, Will, is in the building, rocking the pink bandana, looking very snazzy.
Yes. Breast cancer, guys. Breast cancer awareness.
Hell yeah. So Before we get into this week's episode of TNA, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to know, hey, how do we, stay up to date with all of you and your shenanigans? Well, I'm glad you asked, random voice on the internet, because you can follow us all over any social media platform at BC WrestlePod. We're pretty much anywhere and everywhere. We have spread ourselves out as much as we can across the social media. We are on the Facebook, the Twitter, the TikTok, the Instagram, the YouTube, the Twitch. We also have a Venmo, a Cash App, a Patreon. And if you want to know how you can find all this without having to go to 50 million separate sites, you can download the Next Level app, and you can find us at BC WrestlePod on Next Level. Shout out to the boys over there for continuing to have us work with them and for allowing us to use their platform to grow our audience, as well as give us some really fun stuff. We just finished having a giveaway from Next Level and all the wrestling content creators out there of a customized championship belt. So that will be announced fairly soon, the winner of that. And stay tuned, because they got some other fun stuff planned for the next couple of months. And then at the end of this episode, I will give you a preview of what next week and the following week looks like, because between now and the end of December, we pretty much are back to pay-per-view hell week every single week. We got a pay-per-view a week starting next week. So it's going to get wild up in here. And before you know it, me, you, and Andrew will be doing Bound for Glory in a couple of weeks. So now that I've gotten the PR stuff out of the way, let's get into some wrestling, shall we? This week, we are taking a look at TNA's wrestling that aired on Thursday, September 26, 2024. And we open this week with a tag team match from the Knockouts division. We have NXT's Wendy Chu teaming up with Rosemary. We have been seeing this over TNA and NXT the last couple weeks, that these two have found each other, and it is an unholy union of chaos and darkness, which I'm kind of here for, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
And they are taking on what's first is introduced as our Knockouts tag team champion, Jordan Grace. And then we would figure out who was going to be Jordan's tag partner from NXT to take on Wendy and Rosemary. And then Ariana Grace's music hits. And I'm just like, now this would be funny, but I doubt it's Ariana. Yeah. But Ariana, as the liaison of NXT, as she calls herself, introduces one of her best friends, and I put that in air quotes. But Jordan's tag team partner happens to be the one and only NXT's Sol Ruca, which made me super excited. I'm like, totally made sense. You know, Jordan had an open challenge on NXT not too long ago. Sol Ruca answered the challenge, but then it was interrupted by Rosemary and Wendy Chu. So it makes sense that this match would happen. So before the bell even rang, all hell broke loose because Wendy and Rosemary were on the attack. Sol Ruca and Jordan Grace answered back. They brawled for a little bit until we finally got the bell to ring. And for like the next 8 or 9 minutes, like this was promising to be a really fun match. Jordan's fantastic. Wendy and Rosemary are great. I love Sol Ruca. I think she is super fantastic. And for some reason, she fits so well here in the Knockouts division, which, you know, I wouldn't be mad if she wanted to stick around a little bit. But then, of course, we could not have all the fun stuff last too long because Miss Boricua badass herself, Tasha Steelz, runs in, causes a DQ. Jordan and Sol technically win, but is it really a win? I don't think so. And so then the numbers game become too much because it becomes a 3-on-2. And then who should come out but Miss Mosha Slamovich comes to even out the odds because she has some unfinished business with Tasha Steelz. And now she is pretty much now a babyface, which is really nice to see Masha become because she's been like this really aggressive heel since we've known her here in TNA. So it's really nice to see her babyface. But Will, this was a lot to unpack. This was like the first 15 minutes of our show this week. How do we feel about the match and everything that transpired afterwards?
Well, I love the match. I thought the match, it started out great. I knew it was going to go like it was going to start before the bell. I knew it because, you know, Rosemary and Wendy Chu, I was like, they're unpredictable. They're so unpredictable, they're predictable. So I was just waiting for it. And then boom, it happened. And I was like, yep, there it is. And I thought that the match was going great. And I was a little disappointed, and I understand why they did it. And we talked about this off screen a little bit, but I was a little disappointed that it became a shenanigans match, you know, that, and I love me some Tasha too, but you know, I was just like, oh, come on, guys. Is this what we result to all the time? You know, and it sort of bugged me a little bit, but then I was like, then when Masha came in, I was like, okay, this just got interesting now. So now I'm like, okay, so now I get what you're doing. So it's like, so I was okay with it then, because then it was like, we're gonna get something pretty badass with what's coming up because of this match. So I was like, at first I was like, yeah. Then I was like, oh man. Then I was like, oh hell yeah. So yeah, that's where I am right now with it. With very hell yeah, because it was like, oh yeah, I'm very excited, and I'm very excited that Masha has gone this new route. It's really neat seeing her as, like, you know, not a heel. It's so weird, you know. It's just like whenever she comes out, I'm thinking, oh god, here we go, and then it's like, oh wait, she's on the good guys side. What's this all about? So I'm very excited to see where this goes. This new Masha goes. I'm very curious. So yeah,
And
it was good. It was a great opener, I thought.
it definitely was. And, you know, we'll talk a little bit more once we start getting through the rest of this episode. But I started to notice a pattern because there is so much you can do with just these 6 women alone. I honestly don't know what matches they're going to give us at Bound for Glory, because I mean, Jordan is probably going to defend her title, but who would she defend it against? Will there be a tag team? Will there be a 6th person? And that's why I love that this episode really did a good job of establishing, oh, anybody and everybody can probably end up on this card somewhere. So I am
Yeah.
super excited. Because then, well, I mean, this match, despite the DQ, had me excited. Then I was deflated a little bit because backstage we have the king of TNA himself, Frankie Kazarian, cut a promo. Again, we are building to our main event in the evening, where it will be Frankie Kazarian versus Joe Hendry for the #1 contendership to Nick Nemeth's TNA World Championship. And winner will move on to face Nick for his title at Bound for Glory. In this backstage promo, Frankie Kazarian says pretty much what we've known him to say since he gained this new King moniker for his character, that, you know, Joe Hendry is a joke, that, you know, he doesn't represent TNA, that Frankie Kazarian is the best option to face Nick Nemeth. And again, me and you sit here, Will, and me specifically, I'm just like, sir, what have you been doing that is worth talking to in the last like 2 or 3 months?
Yep.
Like, we have not seen you wrestle that often. The only thing you have over Joe Hendry is eliminating him at the NXT Battle Royale to see who would face Trick Williams for his title, which then, you know, boo on you because Joe Hendry ended up coming back and winning to face Ethan Page at No Mercy. Now, even though Joe Hendry lost at No Mercy, it was still a phenomenal match, and Joe Hendry still did more than you did, Frankie. I was like, I want whatever Frankie's on in his Delulu land delusion. I was like, I want some of that because I just want to be that ignorantly bliss for the rest of my time. I want to be in my own fantasy land. I'm just like, Frankie, what are we doing?
Yeah, he's getting to that point with me where when I see him on screen, when he's about to do a promo, I just shut him off. I'm just like, because you're just telling me the exact same crap you told me last time. And I'm just like, you need a new shtick, dude. This king of TNA is getting old. I mean, it's getting old. I mean, it was fun and ha ha ha. Even though, you know, I say that and I don't mean that. I lied, because his whole transformation makes no damn sense. like from day one.
All he did was add a scarf.
Yeah. And then he's all like, look at me, I'm the badass of TNA. And I'm like, what? You were like Mr. Whiny Bitch for a long time, buddy boy. And now all of a sudden you're like Mr. Tough Guy. I'm just like, I don't know about all this.
So the best way I could describe Frankie Kazarian, and I need to watch what am I saying because I'm getting up there in age too. Frankie Kazarian reminds me of that one suburban dad who's going through a midlife crisis, but instead of buying like a Harley and going through a motorcycle phase, he decided to buy a scarf and he's trying to be the cool dad, but it's not really working out. And he's kind of being a douche while he's doing this too. I'm just like, Frankie Kazarian, my dude, you need to have several seats.
Yeah, seriously.
But I mean, hey, you know what? We're disliking him, so TNA's doing their job because he is the heel in this scenario leading into our main event, which then leads into our next match, which, you know what? If we continue to see this version of Jonathan Gresham that we saw at the very end of just being ruthless, I'm behind this. But we have it, what's touted as an X Division showcase. We have returning to us is Laredo Kid, which is nice because it's been a couple weeks since we've seen Laredo, and he takes on Jonathan Gresham. I thought this match was a lot of fun. Of course, Laredo Kid is our luchador in this match, so he does more of the aerial, assassination, if you will, for this. But my biggest takeaway from this match was like the last minute of so, where we started to see Jonathan Gresham get a little bit more vindictive and vicious, and then start just spamming the finisher button by destroying Laredo Kid's knee on the mat and just continuing to do so until he tapped. And I was just like, now, if we get this version of Jonathan Gresham where he's looking at body parts to destroy, I'm kind of here for this. Now, I'm one of the few people, and Andrew's not here to back me up on this, but we were weirdly in love with his, dark octopus character with the ink and everything. But if we're going to put that away and save that for special occasions now, I'm going to attack your body part until you break Jonathan Gresham, I can get behind. But Will, this was the second match of our evening. This was touted as a Next Division showcase. How did you feel about the match? And then what are your overall thoughts about either Laredo Kid, Jonathan Gresham, or both of these men?
I really like this match. I thought this was a show on technical wrestling. I mean, it was like two different styles, and they meshed them together pretty well, I thought, because a lot of their, like at the very, very beginning, it was like a showcase at the beginning. It was like, here, let me show you everything that we can do and everything, and Laredo Kid was showing off his luchador style, and Gresham was showing his more technical, and they blended it well together, I thought, because there was a couple of moves that they flowed so fluidly into each other. And then then it turned, and we saw the Gresham start to get. But this is Gresham when I first met him. This was how he was, and I was behind this from day one. And then when he became, it was that whole dark octopus thing was cool. I just didn't think it was sustainable. It was like, oh, that's neat. And I guess that's what they thought too, because he doesn't do it anymore. But I just didn't think it was sustainable. I was like, oh, that's a neat idea for like a short, like, oh, look at me, I'm possessed by something, and now I'm free of it, and now the dark octopus is gone. But I don't know. At first I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it didn't. I don't know. I didn't know where it came from, so I was a little on the fence with it. But I love Gresham. I think he's great. I like both of them, actually. I thought this was such a fun match. And yeah, that ending part was, I mean, see, that's what, to me, I was like, oh, there's Gresham. There he is. I was just like, because it was very pretty at the beginning, and then he got brutal, and I was like, there he is. That's the guy we know. That's the guy we know and love. So yeah, I really liked it.
Oh my goodness. I 100% agree with you. I want to see this Jonathan Gresham keep going more. And I mean, we're going to see how well he does because we found out, spoiler alert, when we got to the bumper section before our main event, we were told that Gresham would be taking on Josh Alexander of all people. Now, wouldn't that be something if the third person, when we get to Eric Young and Steve Macklin later, the third person to even the odds is Jonathan Gresham? I'd be here for it. Jonathan Gresham, Macklin, and Young would be a great team. But we're burying the lead. We're going to talk about it when we get there. But Jonathan Gresham and Josh Alexander are going to go up against each other next week. And I, for one, I'm excited.
Me too.
I can't wait. Speaking of people who can't wait on things, Mike Santana took justice into his own hands because we cut backstage. And Mike Santana's like, oh, hell no, we going to do this. He takes the cameraman to follow him. Mike Santana has a whole entire white wife beater tank top and a chain, and literally it's just like, cameraman, stay right here, throws open the door and takes that chain inside, closes it, and we hear him beat up the system in their own locker room.
Oh, that was one of my favorite moments, actually.
Oh my gosh. I was just like, yes, vigilante justice. I'm here for. Hey, you know what? Moose got himself involved in Mike Santana's business when he beat him up after the Texas death match that Mike Santana had with JDC. And so now Mike Santana is on the path to revenge and retribution.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Mike Santana later and probably what was my favorite promo of the whole entire night, but we'll get there. But I just thought just hearing the chain and the people screaming and moving in the locker room was
people
hilarious.
Hitting the door. It was like,
yeah. I was just like, oh, TNA, never change with your hokiness when it comes. I loved it so much. But you see, normally like these hokey kinds of things is a one and done. But as hokey as this was, when we pair it with what we get later from Mike Santana, I'm like, oh, y'all have me excited for whatever's about to come with Mike in the system. But we'll get there when we get there, because we have a 6-man tag team match we have to talk about, because we have our former X Division champion Zachary Wentz teaming up with the former TNA World Tag Team Champions ABC, which is Chris Bay and Ace Austin. And they are taking on the team of the aerial sensation Leon Slater, the time splitter Kushida, and our current and formerly minted new X Division champion Speedball Mike Bailey. These 6 men put on a show. This was so phenomenal. I say this all the time, and I'm biased as all hell, but I'm like, give Leon Slater like 2 or 3 years. This kid's about to be a megastar. Leon is so fantastic. But you know what? All 6 of these men have all been in the X Division in some capacity, and they bring it out. I thought this match was fantastic. During our Victory Road review, me and Andrew said that Zach and Mike was our favorite match of the whole pay-per-view and probably up there for the year. This was no exception. And when you throw in Leon Slater, Kushida, and ABC, these 6 men did amazing. And in a pleasant surprise, Zach and ABC pick up the victory here after Zach ends up pinning Leon Slater. And I was just like, all right, I see what we're doing, TNA. Listen, I'm not going to complain if we get a rematch between Zach and Mike Bailey at some point. But this was a very good 6-man tag team match. How did you feel about the match?
I love this match. I was actually very excited that Zachary got the pin. I was very excited for that because I know all the stuff that that the Rascals are going through right now. But I was like, that was great. That was awesome. And I actually liked him paired up with ABC too. Because they were on it. This is the thing about it. ABC and Zach Wentz felt like a team. The others felt like individuals in a group. And I like Mike Bailey and I like Kushida and I like Slater as individuals. I don't think they make a very good team. So it was
It
neat
is
to
very thrown
watch.
together. Yeah, for
Yeah, it was
sure.
neat to watch Wentz and ABC work together against them as individuals, because they were so like in it for themselves. I mean, they were working as a team, but you could tell they were individuals, not a team. Wentz and ABC felt like a team, and I really, really enjoyed their work together. And I think it's neat that they put the three of them together, considering they were former champions.
Exactly. Well, I think what makes it even really interesting too, and I didn't think about this until now, it makes sense that Wentz and ABC work well together as like a unit, as a team, because lest we forget, the Rascals and ABC had a bit of a feud earlier in the year for these titles, and even a little bit towards the end of 2023 too. Like, they faced off against each other a lot, so they got to know each other
That's
very
true.
well. So now that I think about it, it was smart, and it's kind of cool to see rivals turn allies in a way for this particular match. But I agree with you, Will. I thought Zach and ABC worked well as a unit, and individually, I love the other three people on the other side as individual wrestlers,
Huh?
but it definitely showed because they ended up losing because they are not as cohesive as Zach and ABC, which we would see a little bit of, you know, that downtroddenness later. But when we'll talk about it when we get to Leon and Mike Bailey's conversation backstage. But again, I thought this was a fantastic match, and I love seeing all these folks be on my screen. Speaking of loving people who is seen on my screen, we get a backstage segment where Hammerstone is coaching, you know, Jake Something, lifting all those weights, and, you know, Jake Something just using his musculos and lifting things. And for some reason, like, you have Jake who's like in regular like workout clothes, and then all of a sudden I turn and I look at Hammerstone and he's in his wrestling gear. I'm like, do you just work out half naked, Hammerstone? Like, what's happening here?
I know, right? I'm
I
okay
was like,
with it.
okay, like, I'm not gonna be mad or anything, but like, all right. And
Yep.
then this workout sesh is interrupted as Mr. Cody Deaner comes in. He needs to talk to Jake about stuff. Hammerstone's like, bro, what are you doing? We're in the middle of a workout sesh, bro. You cannot talk to him. And Jake Something's like, what do you want, Diener? And Diener's like, I don't like where you're going. I don't like this path. And he's just like, do you though? As Jake gets a backbone in this, and he embraces the full heelness. He's just like, because when I was with you, I was a loser. And I was just like, and now I'm winning things. But hey, you know what? I don't like what you're saying. And Hammerstone's like, bro, Diener, I back up my partner Jake here. As is like, you constantly are losing. You're a loser. But hey, if you want to have beef with somebody, me and you can settle it in the ring next week. So apparently, Diener, we're about to see Diener die at the hands of Hammerstone.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? The most important thing for me, besides Diener about to die next week, we are continuing to build Jake and Hammerstone as a monster tag team, and I'm kind of here for it.
I'm very much here for it.
I was
Because
just
we
like,
don't have anything like this.
well,
We don't have a team
exactly,
like this.
exactly. We don't have a big monster
This is like,
powerhouse tag team.
yeah, this is like a tank team. I mean, they're like both tanks.
Team tanks. We need tank
Yeah,
tops.
we do. Oh my god, yes.
That is their tag team name. Is just like
Team Tanks.
Team Tanks with the tank tops.
Not tank tops. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
You know, whenever TNA is ready to pull the trigger, I am ready to see Hammerstone and Something just plow, no pun intended, through the tag team division.
Me too. I think, you know, it's funny because I think they have the capability of doing like what over in the other place where Corbin and
Braun were
doing. I think that it could be something very similar to that. If this is where they're building them to, which I'm very excited if they are turning them into a tag team, then I could see them running through every single tag team and then take the belts from the system, I think.
Just
That
go on
would
a
be
monster tear,
awesome. That would be
win the tag
so
titles,
awesome.
and go on a monster reign.
I think they should
Be-
just literally take out every other tag team until they get to the system and then just annihilate them. I'd be here for it. I'm here for it. You hear that,
I
TNA?
love
I'm
this.
here for it.
Yes, we are here for Team Tank over here.
Yes.
We will workshop the name, but yes, Jake something and Hammerstone. We are here for. We can either call them, but we can call them Team like Jake Stone or something Hammer. One of the two. We'll workshop the name later.
Something Hammer.
That sounds
Hammer
like the knockoff.
Hammer something.
Hammer something. Yes.
There it is.
Andrew, eat your heart out. No, I'm just kidding.
Hammer something. Yes.
All right. It's official. We're gonna make Hammer something like unofficial merch for the BC WrestlePod shop. It will be out next week.
Yes. Hammer something.
TNA don't sue us, but please.
I know. Please don't.
Please be like
Iris.
hashtag Team Hammer something.
Yes. Hammer something. I love it. I'm here for it now.
Digital high five.
I couldn't find my camera for a second there. I was like, wait, where's my camera? There it is.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I love this so much. Okay, hang on. Let me write this down before I forget. So Team Hammer something.
I already wrote it down.
We're gonna get their images and we're gonna juxtapose them with just two crossing hammers.
Yes. Hammer something.
I love it so much. TNA, if you watch this video, I give you full rights to create that merch. I just ask that you credit, the Takedown Troupe in it. Please. Yes. Cha-ching! Oh my goodness. So we're gonna move on from Team Hammer something. I love it. So then, okay, we talked about this and we've been leading to this. We get this promo from Mike Santana, and my God, so we see the aftermath of him coming out of, beating up the system. He is covered in blood. We don't know if it's his or the system's, but it doesn't matter. He's got the chain. He sits in the chair. He looks at the camera and he's like, the system has done effed up, y'all, because they decided, Moose, you decided to stick your nose in my business and beat me up after the Texas death match against JDC. So now you're in my play. This was my favorite 9. You're in my playground now, and we're going to play by my rules. And I don't care how long it takes. I will work my way through the system to bring it crashing down. And it ends with you, Moose. And that is it. My God, Will, this is my favorite Mike Santana. Not just my favorite Mike Santana promo in TNA. Not just my favorite promo tonight, but I think this is my favorite TNA promo period that we've had in quite some time over the last couple months.
I agree.
I am so ready to see whatever they got planned with Santana and Moose.
Oh, yeah.
But I got shivers when Mike was saying this. I was just like, this is what good promos look like. Other companies, it's not that difficult. Just really let your talent use their strengths and their characters and just let them run for it. My God. Honestly, I think Mike Santana, outside of Joe Hendry for TNA, just because we love to believe in him, I think Mike Santana is probably my favorite TNA male wrestler of the year right now with just this promo alone. Like, I think this man has had the biggest comeback since returning to TNA earlier this year. I agree. Will, what did you think about this promo? And Mike Santana is now calling the rules on the TNA playground.
I freaking loved this whole thing. At first I was like, the first part of it when he went into the dressing room, which was so great, the locker room, it was so great. I was like, oh, that is so awesome. You hear the screaming and the yelling and the people, somebody hitting the door, and it's something like, okay, haha, that's funny. And then it took that dark turn, and I was like, oh, this is so amazing. When he's like
Mike Santana, oh my,
I know, because when I first saw him all bloodied, I thought it was actually from the
Texas death match, right?
Same, because he still had his knot, and all that, and I was like, oh, okay. Then I was like, wait a minute, no, this is different because the knot's not as big. I was like, wait, what is this? Oh my God, is that supposed to be the blood?
We got the after. We got the after shot. We got the after shot of when he jumped the system in their locker room earlier in the episode.
I was on fire for this promo. I was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, this. I don't think unless something happens after like Bound for Glory promo wise, I agree. I think this is the absolute best promo that I've seen since I've been doing TNA. I think personally, and then we've seen some pretty darn good promos, but this one was just this one had it. This one had like the theatrics. This one had like the drama, the trauma. I mean, it had everything. And man, just and you're right. Just let your talent be talented. Let them do their thing, and he did. Man, I was just like, I was riveted to it. I literally went back and I watched it again because I was just like, oh my God, it was so good. He had me from the minute that he started. I was like, okay, yep, I agree with you. This would probably be the best promo of the year for sure so far. I mean,
absolutely.
holy goodness, it was so good. And
And
it makes me excited.
if they build this feud up right, Will, I think this might be my most anticipated match if we get something between Moose and Santana at Bound for Glory.
Yep.
So you have 4 weeks, TNA. Don't mess it up.
Mhm.
But I'm excited nonetheless. But that excitement was perfect. And this was a very strategic place to put this promo for us. Because for me, and I'm pretty sure for you, that excitement carried over into the debut match of Lian Li. Like, formerly known as Xia Li in NXT and in WWE. Lian Li takes on local talent Hyan. I was sold like the first 5 seconds when she came down wearing the veiled hat and the fan and everything. I was just like, yes, martial arts. I am here for it. And this is what I want, and it's not because she's, of Asian descent. So I don't want anyone to think this, but it has been a very long time, since I've used this comparison. But to me, if they want to build, Liang Li for TNA as like the female Bruce Lee for this division, I am so flipping here for this because this match had everything. She kicked ass, but she also sold her ass off too against her opponent.
Indeed.
And that finishing move, I was just like, take my money. I need the shirt now. Like, get her a couple of wins. I need her and Jordan to face off like right now. Like, she has everything, and I'm so happy to see her just like what made me love this match even more, because the match itself on paper was fine. It was your typical debut match. It was a little back and forth, but ultimately our new person who signs this company is going to win. But the fact that the crowd was just so with her from the very beginning, with no pomps, no circumstances, like the whole match, they were invested in her without any prompting. It just warmed my little, little brown boy heart. I was just like, yes, TNA fans embracing minority wrestlers in their companies. Oh my gosh. I'm at a loss for words because like this, Santana had an awesome promo. This was such a fun match to watch and a very nice debut for Miss Lee. Will, how do we feel about our one of the 2 new knockouts, because we're going to talk about the other one later, but this is our newly signed knockout. And how do you feel the match went and just her overall presentation here in TNA?
I loved that they used a local talent, because I love that. If you're because it shows ultimate respect, I think, to the place that you're doing where you're doing your show. So I love that she was fighting someone local. I love her whole aesthetic. I love everything about her, and I love the Asian culture. Like China, Japan, Korea, and that sort of traditional sort of style and culture is really. I mean, I love the culture. You'll hear me tell you if you ever watch this on CMLL, you'll always hear me talk about culture. But I love how she just brings all of that in. And to me, she reminds me more of like I was going to see her on Mortal Kombat. That's what I was like.
Yes,
You
looking
know?
out here, looking like
Yep.
Katana and
I mean,
Sindel, and I'm just
with
like,
her gear and everything, and the fans. I'm thinking, girls about
yo,
to be like, get
cast her in
over
the next
here.
Mortal Kombat movie, you guys, like for reals.
Yeah. And I'm loving it, and I cannot wait to see where this takes her. I'm very excited for her. Very
I
excited. This
am
was a good
too.
match too. It was a good match too. It wasn't like a.
This,
I thought it was going to be a throwaway match because they're like, oh, we're just introducing her, so we'll just do it a little quick. But no, it was pretty good. High-end, she held her own. So I was like, good for them. So I was happy that. I mean, it was a short match, but I was happy that it wasn't just a throwaway.
no, it actually it was a squash match with purpose, is what we coined on ROH earlier today. It was a squash match with purpose because Hyann looked strong, but it also, prompted up and debuted and showed off, Li Yang Li, and what she's going to bring to this division makes me super excited. But also, speaking of things that make me excited, could we possibly see some sort of, mentorship? Because Leon Slater is seen backstage kind of beating himself up for getting the loss, and Mike Bailey comes up, and Leon apologizes to Speedball Mike Bailey that, he's going to get better, he's going to, do better. And Mike Bailey, being the consummate, like, Master Oogway of TNA, if you will. It's just like, Leon, it is okay. We learn from our mistakes, and you will do better next time, like in a very mentor, like master student type of way. I'm like, if Leon Slater ends up, being like, if Mike Bailey ever tells Leon Slater, I have the high ground, we're in for a great time.
I'm waiting for wax on, wax off.
Yes, literally. Okay, sidebar. We talked about this many a times before, but you cannot tell me that Mike Bailey walked out of like freaking Karate Kid at some point. Like, this man looks like he belongs in Karate Kid, or at least belongs on the next season of Cobra Kai. Like, you cannot tell me otherwise.
I agree. I totally agree.
But I would be so here for a Speedball Mike Bailey and Leon Slater like mentor student relationship. It'd be great. My question is, where is Trent Seven?
Oh, I know. Real quick, I really like Leon Slater. I really like him as a wrestler. He is super charismatic in the ring, and I really liked his performance in the 6-man. I really did, because I was like, wow, he's really good, actually. But yeah, I this happened, and I was sort of like, oh, that's neat. And I really like Mike Bailey. I really do. I thought he got a little smug there for a little while, and then he kind of chilled out, and then he got the belt, then he got the championship back again, and now he's more young one. But
it's hard to hate Mike Bailey for sure.
It is. It really is. Even when he was being kind of smug, I was like, oh man, don't make me hate you, dude, because I don't think I could live with that.
No, and I'm glad it didn't. But I will say though, like, because I see where you're coming from too, but I totally understand why his character did that, because he did beat Ali for that title, and Ali held that thing for pretty much the majority of this year so far. And Ali pretty much beat anyone and everyone for the championship, and Mike Bailey was finally able to bring him down. So but you know what? Again, I am here for this. So next, we go backstage once again. We get first, it starts off with a promo with ABC talking about they are going to tell us, when they're going to reenact their rematch clause for the tag team championships. And then they are interrupted by Matt and Jeff Hardy. And the Hardys do actually make some good points here, because they're like, the last couple of times we faced the system, we've beaten them. And so, not to say that we're going to cut in front of you guys, but we should also be in, talks to face them for the titles. And I'm like, the Hardys are kind of right. I was like, they have been picking up some wins. They had a huge win last week when they teamed with Masha to beat the tag team champs and Tasha Steelz. And so I'm just like, So they're going to have a match next week. And even though we haven't been told this is for the #1 contendership, I would not be surprised if whoever wins next week will be the first to take a crack at the system for their championships. But again, shenanigans can also go down. But I laughed so hard when Jeff Hardy did the choo choo line. I was like, this is so cringe, but like, this is my kind of cringe. I'm here for it.
It was so funny. I was just like, oh, really? I was like, but I laughed.
What made it perfect too is that Chris Bay and Ace Austin afterwards were commenting on it. They're like, Ace Austin's like, I can't be mad at that. I kind of dig. And Chris Bay's like, what? Like, this man is crazy, but also I kind of understand. The ad-libbing was so much fun at the end.
Yeah,
of this.
It was so funny.
So off the rails. I loved it. But you know what? I'm actually kind of excited to see Hardy's and ABC go at it next week.
Yeah, me too, actually. That'll be interesting.
Oh, definitely. So speaking of interesting things, Josh Alexander comes down to the ring and he begins, in the words of Taylor Swift, he's in his apology era. Because he comes down to the ring and he's like, you guys, I lost my way. I was kind of a dick. And I want to apologize to the fans. I now believe in Joe Hendry because, he made me believe and I didn't believe in him, but he made me a believer at Victory Road and all this stuff. And, I also owe an apology to this man. So Eric Young, if you could come down. And we're getting like this sob story back and forth. And Eric's like, you know what, Josh, this is what I want to see. You're a good person. There, a lot of this locker room looks to you and they love you and they respect the hell out of you. And then they hug it out. And I was just like, to the average TNA fan, they were like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. To somebody who's been watching wrestling long enough, especially here in TNA, and I include Will and Andrew in this conversation because we've been watching wrestling, period. Will and Andrew have been watching this pretty much the majority of their lives. I'm still relatively new for like the last 8 years, but I have seen enough wrestling and I've watched enough Mexican telenovelas because as soon as Eric Young turned his back to get out of the ring, that is when this is like ding, ding, ding. And Josh Alexander suplexes him into the mat. Then we have Sinner and Saint come out, but not before Josh Alexander gets back on the mic and pretty much says, it was just like, I'm not sorry, bitch. This is like, you thought. I was like, nah, I still hate Joe Hendry and I hate you. And now we're going to kick your little behind, Eric Young. And then we get Sinner and Saint with the 3-on-1. Steve Macklin coming in looking like, someone's, VA grandpa with his scraggly beard and the getup. But the numbers game is too much. Yeah. And yeah, see, thanks to Will, I can never unsee Steve Macklin's like large mouthpiece, so to speak.
Huge mouth. His mouth is
was
gigantic.
Just like, Deanna Purrazzo is a lucky woman. I will just say that. But the numbers game is too much for Macklin and Eric Young, and Josh Alexander, Sinner and Saint beat them up and stand tall by the end of this. And I'm just like, I have a friend we all have that one friend who's still new to wrestling. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that. And then you have the rest of us sitting in the room that's being set on fire. It's like, nah, this is fine. We're used to this. You'll get used to it.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. This is like it's soap opera. Things are going to take a left turn and then a right and then up. And then you have to turn around in Albuquerque. But it goes all over the map. I actually really like this. I knew Josh was not being sincere, but I kind of like this douchey, smarmy, psych Josh Alexander we're getting. And and you know what? I'm excited because now we have another story and another feud that doesn't need a championship, which makes me super happy. I'm like, I wasn't sure because between Victory Road and Emergence, I was like, I don't know, TNA, where are we going for Bound for Glory? And TNA is just like, all right, guys, we got like the filler pay-per-views out the way. Let's bring out the good shit. And this is what we're getting.
Yep.
So, Will, I want to get your thoughts about this segment, and then let's speculate a little bit because we talked a little bit earlier about who we think might be the third person is. But what did you think of this segment as a whole?
I mean, I knew. I was like, no. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, you're not. I was just like, because I talked about it the last time when he went back and was chit chatting with Saint and Senna. When he was talking to them in the back, I was like, we're about to see a team up. And then he came out and he was like, I just did what I did because Joe didn't believe in himself enough, and I was just helping him believe in himself enough. And I was like, wow, you are laying it on thick. And then I was like, and then then Young comes out, and I was like, dude, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. But he did. Got him the hug. He's like, here, you can go out first. It's like, no, you go out first. And he's like, okay. And then it was just like, bam. I was just like, there it is.
He tried to warn you.
I was like, I tried to tell you. And then here they come. Then here comes Saint Center comes out. And I was like, there it is. Mentor. Because he's talking about mentoring. I was like, he is the bad mentor.
It's so funny,
guys. And I was like, this. I was here for it. I was like, this is great.
It was.
I think we need this. I think we need this like villain like group. You have the Justice League and then you have the Legion of Doom. We need
you know that. What? You bring up a really great point, because right now the only true heel like faction that we have is the System, but I would put them in the category of maybe like I don't know if this is a fair comparison, and Will could probably help me out as he has better comic book knowledge. I would put the System in like maybe like a rogues gallery type of situation more so than anything. But then I look over at Josh and Sinner and Saint. I'm like, oh, this is the Legion of Doom over here.
Total Legion of Doom. Oh yeah, he's like
about to fuck some shit up. And I'm here for it.
I mean, Josh Alexander is Lex Luthor, and he's like, I'm gonna gather all of the evil people, and I'm gonna pull them to me. And I'm going to create this, and I'm hoping that's what's happening. I'm hoping they're going to create some kind of like evil faction that even
that just decimates that decimates the roster too.
Yep.
You know what? If we need some heavy machinery, can you imagine Sinner? Well, I mean, Sinner and Saint will be the tag team, but I want to bring in a conversation me and Andrew had earlier today, because funny enough, we were talking about this, and he said, wouldn't it be kind of great? He's like, I don't know who, but if you wanted to make this a faction very, very a lethal threat, because Josh and Sinner and Saint are already a threat, but if you want to take it to the next level, Andrew, and I agree with you, and I wish you were back here, but we will see you for Bound for Glory in a couple weeks soon. He says that you should put a knockout into this faction, and one of the women be in there. He doesn't know who, because right now we're trying to figure out what we want to do, but either bring in somebody new, somebody turns heel, bring in a powerhouse. Even, Andrew even said you can bring someone over from NXT to fill that role too. Like bring in one of the heel girls who is heel and put him in there. Like,
see, I think it would be far more interesting if it was a turn.
Right.
Like they turned somebody.
Jordan turns, and I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine Jordan Grace turning heel and joining Josh?
That would be insane.
The world would stop turning when Jordan turns heel. But hey, you know what? Crazier things have happened, and we've never really seen Jordan as a heel before, at least in my time watching TNA. I've always known her as a face, but having her turn and join Josh would be kind of next level. And you know what would be okay. My brain is just like going at 1,000 miles per hour, because hear me out, right? So Jordan turns, she joins Josh, Sinner, and Saint, and then of course you need a tag team to go up against Sinner and Saint. You need somebody who is the face of TNA to go up against Josh. I love you, Nick, but what if we have Joe Hendry? So if we're gonna do like a whole Avengers like Justice League kind of situation, it would be Jordan, Josh, Sinner, and Saint. And my ideal team as of who we got right now would be for the tag team for the men. Honestly, I would probably put ABC in there. If I'm going to be honest, like ABC would be perfect for this storyline. For your men to face Joe Hendry. I love you, Nick, but Joe Hendry. For your woman, and I think this would be so good storytelling, it would be the team of Joe, ABC, and Masha going up against Josh, Jordan, and Sinner Insane.
Yes.
Again, I don't know. This is just pure speculation. This is fantasy booking,
I
but
know,
TNA,
but
if you watch
man.
this video, I will please, you could take this idea because you cannot tell me that wouldn't be epic.
It would be. I mean, it would absolutely. I completely didn't even think about Masha. I was
And
like,
if we want to do it
well,
now, have it happen like at Bound for Glory, and you can lead this into Hard to Kill or something for next January.
Oh my god, it would be that would be so good.
Have it be a 3 pay-per-view cycle and build up to the blowout at one of the big 4.
I would love that. I would pay money to see that.
But, you know, despite all that, though, this is how fun this idea is of Josh leading a faction like this and being a heel about it. And Macklin and Eric Young have to find somebody to even the odds with these 3 men. And we talked a little bit about it because Jonathan Gresham and Josh Alexander are going at it next week. I would not be surprised if Jonathan joins Eric Young and Steve Macklin in this feud for a little bit. And then we can expand it by putting a knockout into it. I'm just saying.
I know, right?
But the potential is there. And I think that's what makes me super excited about this.
I think, in order to get Gresham to join the Macklin and
Young,
Alexander's going to have to humiliate him like he's done to the other 2. That's, because that seems to be what's kind of
basically make Gresham
joining everyone together.
Just basically like embarrass Gresham and like make him show his ass a little bit, so to speak.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, he's going to have to
use his own finisher against him.
Yeah, whoever it is that they put up against, they have to be humiliated by Alexander.
That is very true. Well, speaking of people who need to be humiliated, backstage we have Santino and Steph DeLander talking. You know, Steph has to go get her neck surgery and won't be out for a little bit, as we know. But Steph's like, hey, do you need another assistant? And I was like, I would love to see assistant Steph DeLander that'd be hilarious. But Santino's got it. And then Matt Cardona comes in and interrupts. And he's just like, Steph, what are you still doing here, girl? Go get your surgery. We already know. Boo hoo hoo. And Santino's like, perfect. This is not just the person I wanted to talk to. Mr. Matthew Cardona. I was just like, I love Santino so much. It's just like, so now I know you want to get your hands on PCO. So you are going to have a match. And Matt Cardona's like, okay, yeah. It's like we talked about. Finally, I get my hands on PCO. At Bound for Glory, it will be PCO and Matthew Cardona for the digital media and international heavyweight championship in a Monsters Ball match. And Matt Cardona is just like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this. Yes, you did. You signed the contract. And then Matthew Cardona leaves, and Santino to Steph is like, Santino 6, Cardona 4. I win. And I'm just like, Santino never changed. Like, yes, Santino,
exactly.
Best authority figure 2024. But the wrestling gods have answered my prayer. I don't care if I'm the only person and Will and Andrew can make fun of me. For all I care, I get a Monsters Ball match at Bound for Glory and I can die happy. This is the first match announced for Bound for Glory. We are getting PCO defending his 2 titles against Matt Cardona in a Monsters Ball match. And I'm just like, yes to Monsters Ball. We are keeping the legacy of Daphne and Abyss alive. Some of my 2 favorite like early 2000s TNA characters. God, I cannot wait to see how these 2 kill each other, because we know PCO is not afraid to bleed. Matt Cardona, for those who are unaware, you need to go watch his death matches in GCW, which me and Andrew have seen a couple of those now. And it's about to get crunk. Me too. I love that the wrestling gods have shined upon me this day. Oh my goodness. But that is not the only prayer that gets answered, and we will talk about that during the main event. But prior to that, in our semi-main event, we have another knockouts match where we have the official in-ring debut, because we've already had her like backstage and everything, and she went up against Giselle Shaw. But now we see, Heather Reckless take on Zaya Brookside, who decided to go Texas for the night, which commentary pointed it out. I was just like, yeah, it's real. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was cute watching this little British girl dress up as a cowgirl. It was fun. It was great. And you know what? The match was really good too. Like, I think Zaya Brookside, she is a prodigy because she was born and raised to do this business. Her dad is a legend in the UK wrestling scene, and she's been wrestling since like 6 or 7, I think. And the girl's only 19, so it's kind of crazy. And you know what? I thought this was a fun match, and it definitely sets up, Ash and Heather being a thing. And listen, if we get more Ash by Elegance on my TV screen, I'm never going to be upset. But Will, what did you think about this match between Heather and Zaya? And then, because we compare this, how do we feel the backstage segment with Ash, the concierge, and Heather went too? Because that was hilarious to watch.
That was so funny. Oh my goodness. Well, I really liked this one too. It's so funny because we were talking about it off screen, but we really enjoyed everything about this episode. And this one didn't disappoint either. At least I don't think it did. I thought Heather and Zaya, I thought they were like on fire, and there was a lot of like dirty stuff going on. I mean, it was just like, I don't know is that hair she was pulling off of her at one point. I mean, like, I was like, is she just pulling her extensions out? I was like, what is she doing? I was like, oh my god,
pull the weave,
like plucking her like a chicken. I mean, she was like plucking her like a chicken. And then of course you've got Ash off to the side, just like yelling, and he's like, she's my girl, and la la la. And it was like, I love you so much. And I thought it was a pretty good match. I thought that for the semi-main event, I thought it went a good length. Like, it didn't outstay its welcome because of I get what it was doing. It was just sort of setting up. And then the backstage segment was so funny. It's just like, we think you got moxie, girl. You got moxie. I was just like, please stop. I was like, please stop with the moxie.
I love that word, especially in this day and age. It's like, it is like a new version of bless your heart, kind of a little bit.
It was funny. That whole backstage sequence was hilarious.
Hey, but you know what? Ash and Heather and this concierge, like, it could be a lot of fun. And
it could be. Again, I agree.
Potential is there. And I think that's what makes me super excited about it, for sure. So we get the bumpers, like we said. We're going to get Gresham and Alexander next week. We get ABC versus the Hardys. We get, a knockouts match. So Tasha, I think, and Masha will be going up again. I think it was. Anyways, I have to recheck that later. But then we get into our main event, Will, because this is for the TNA Championship #1 contenders match. First and foremost, we get our champion to join us on commentary here. So literally, I just hear the zip and oh my god, and just like. So, okay. So I don't know what it is with wrestlers and making like somewhat like orgasmic like entrances like with their theme song. Because Nick Nemeth has the zipper and the oh my god from the girl. And then in AEW, you have, a tag team called Private Party. And literally their entrance before their theme song hits is you just hear shots being poured and a girl saying, oh my god, is that Private Party? And then their entrance music hits. So I don't know what's going on with wrestling things, just like be like, someone needs to make a compilation and just put it on a CD of just this is like 2024 versions. This is just like, I forget the official term, but just like the sounds of wrestling wetness or something like that.
Ew.
Hey, you know what, Will? It could have been worse. I could have been like moist
wrestling. Blech, blech.
Be like the sound. It's the new soundtrack to the summer. It is Wet and Wild. Okay, I'm gonna stop before we get demonetized.
Gross, or I throw up. One of the two.
Well, speaking of Wet and Wild, because me and Will literally lost our mind. Because first to come down to the ring after Nick Nemeth makes his entrance and is on commentary is Joe Hendry. Which we love Joe Hendry in this household. We all believe in him. He is no longer just a meme.
Nope.
But he is fantastic. And I was mad because before he got to do his thing like he normally does when he enters and talks for a bit, he was interrupted by Frankie Kazarian.
Kaz.
Freaking Kaz tried to make like Jade try to do what he makes her do. And then I love that Joe takes over and just my favorite line of this whole thing before the fight started. It's just like the winner of an Antonio Banderas lookalike contest. And I'm just like,
so funny.
Oh my gosh. I was just like, it was great, which then causes Frankie to just attack Joe Hendry. They brawl for a little bit. Match hasn't even started yet. And then the bell officially rings. Now, I want to talk about everything we get up into the false finish, if you will, because this was my favorite match of the whole entire evening. Say what you will about Frankie Kazarian's character. When the man needs to put in the work in the ring, he puts in the work in the ring. Frankie Kazarian was fantastic in this match. Joe Hendry was fantastic in this match. Both of these men fought, and I loved it because they fought understanding that there is a championship match on the line for the winner of this thing. They get to go on to Bound for Glory in the main event to face Nick Nemeth for this championship. So I need to see everybody fight with all they got, and sure they did, which then ultimately resorted to Kaz, being the heel that he is, pull out some shenanigans, pulls out some brass knucks, and while the ref wasn't looking, decks Joe Hendry in the flipping face, and then gets the 1, 2, 3. And so at this point, Will, and I'm sure you can agree with me, I almost threw things at my screen. I was so yelling obscenities in my house. I was like, what the flipperdoodle is this? Oh, hell nah, TNA. You got me fucked up.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I was so pissed.
I was so mad. I was just like, I'm about to turn this off. And then I'm like, wait a minute. We got like 6 minutes left. What the heck is about to happen? So before we talk about what happens after this, we'll talk about what we got leading into our false finish and then just unpack all of the emotions we were feeling when we thought Joe Hendry lost.
I was so mad. I was just like, well, when it happened, I was just sort of like, my jaw dropped. I was like, no freaking way is Frankie Kazarian
about to go to Bound for Glory.
Bound for Glory. I was like, no way. And I was like, what the hell, team? I was so pissed. I was screaming at my screen. I was throwing things. I was so mad. I was like, that makes no fucking sense. I was like, what the? I was like, I was just like crazed. I was
Papa
so
also
mad.
Was dropping all the explicitives and became a grizzly bear for a hot 10 seconds.
I did. I was so mad. I was just, I literally was like, I don't understand what just happened. I don't understand what just happened. That did not just happen. Because TNA, why in the world would you do something stupid like that? Why would you send Frankie Kazarian to Bound for Glory? What the hell is going on? I was so mad. I was so mad. And then...
But then the wrestling gods answered another prayer this episode because Nick Nemeth, being the good guy that he is, so shout out to Nick Nemeth. You are now a homie in my eyes. Your stock has risen. You gained the brownie points with me because he points out to the ref that Frankie Kazarian was using the knucks, and the ref was trying to figure out what to do next. Frankie was about to leave when Santino comes in and basically says that you see these white things in my skull? These are my eyes, and they see all. I'm like, Santino, never change. You are the best thing. You are the best authority figure. But then Santino was my saving grace, and he also earned brownie points with me because, we are restarting this match right now. And then we get like an extra 5 minutes of these two going at it. But ultimately, Joe Hendry hits the standing ovation on Frankie Kazarian, pins him to the mat, 1, 2, 3. And in the main event of Bound for Glory, it will be Nick Nemeth, the wanted man, defending his TNA World Championship against the #1 contender and probably the most over wrestler, not just in TNA, but I feel like in all of wrestling right now, Joe Hendry. This main event is about to hump, as the kids say. This is a match I am so looking forward to.
Yep.
And of course, I'm biased. I want Joe to win.
I
But
do
you know
too.
what? TNA has the potential to do like a 2-part pay-per-view story where maybe Joe doesn't necessarily walk out the winner at Bound for Glory, but at Hard to Kill, you give him this moment. Because I feel, and in my personal opinion, and again, me and Andrew talked about this before, I think Nick still has a little bit left in the tank as champion, but I do think by the start of next year, we will see Joe Hendry win that title. But I could be wrong too. They could give it to Joe at Bound for Glory. But regardless, Will, I am so ready for this championship. Oh, what happened? Someone
I
messed
have
with
no idea what happened. That
All
was
right.
weird.
Well, that was weird. My system decided to not work away. Oh my gosh.
You gotta be like, oh wow, that was weird. I was just like, what? Where'd I go? I was like, no.
No. Undisputed Truth. Normally we're homies, but how dare you, sir? How dare you?
How dare you not believe in Joe Hendry?
Nah, shout out to Undisputed Truth. We love you, man, in this chat. You've been supporting us for quite some time now, so thank you. And look, I totally get that Joe Hendry may not be for everyone, but we have drank the Kool-Aid and we believe in Joe Hendry. Now, regardless what you think of him as a meme or his songs or whatever, I will say I am really excited for the in-ring work we're going to get between these two, because outside of his shtick, I do believe Joe Hendry is actually a really good, phenomenal wrestler. And we have seen Nick Nemeth, and we know he is a fantastic wrestler too. So we're about to watch magic happen at Bound for Glory. But Will, that brings us to the end of this. So before we sign off, now that we have our actual winner, how do you feel about Joe Hendry moving on to Bound for Glory?
I'm very happy and excited for it. I mean, because if you honestly, truly, even if you go beyond the Joe Hendry fandom, I mean, come on, Frankie Kazarian going to Bound for Glory. Come on now, everybody, you had to know that Joe was going. I mean, even though they gave us they like, haha, they add in that it was like, there's no way that Frankie Kazarian was going to Bound for Glory to face Nick Nemeth. There was no way. So I was totally like, great. And this is my thing is watching Joe Hendry's sort of career, and he was like, and it was like totally like he was losing everything. But he kept going. That was what was so great about it. He never let any of it get him down. And he's sort of that guy you're like, just give him a chance, guy. Just let him get there. Whether he gets it or not is irrelevant. He got there. That's the whole thing. And that's what I'm kind of excited about for him. Do I think he's gonna take the belt from Nick? No. No, I don't. But I'm not saying that he couldn't eventually, but I don't think he's going to at Bound for Glory by any means. But it's going to be great to watch, because my thing is one of the things that I love about Joe Hendry is that, for the most part, most people that don't like him, it's because everybody else does. It's like when he walked out, the crowd in there just embraced him. I mean, they started singing his song. I mean, and when he won, everyone stood up. I mean, everyone was so excited. And again, it's mostly the people that don't like him are the people that, because everybody else does. And that's fine too. If you want to be the descending voice or dissenting voice, then, or my brain's not working, guys. Sorry. The voice of dissension, then by all means, that's cool, because we need it. You've got to have the naysayers with the yaysayers, that sort of thing. But I think it's going to be a fun match, if nothing else, and he and I love Joe Hendry, so yeah, but I'm excited for it.
I am too. So that brings us to the end of this week's Takedown Troupe. So we are about to give our final empanada ratings, and this is an easy one for me. Normally I reserve these scores for like when pay-per-views are fantastic, but I give this week's TNA for me, and you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna stick to it. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10 for me. I thought this was a very solid episode of TNA, and there was, minus the Frankie Kazarian promo, there was not a single thing I disliked. And when you pair with the debut of Miss Lee and the amazing playground promo from Mike Santana, combined with all the matches we got and just all the different stories we can be telling for Bound for Glory, has me really excited. And for damn sure, this is already off to a better start for this year's Bound for Glory build than last year, unless we remember. Because last year's Bound for Glory, look, let's be all the way 100. Bound for Glory last year, the pay-per-view was amazing. The build-up was doo-doo. Like, it was not great. And TNA was struggling to get there, but the pay-per-view was amazing. And this is already off to a fantastic start, and we still have 4 whole weeks left. Oh my goodness. Well, this was an easy 9 out of 10 for me. Yeah. Will, what did you give this week's TNA?
I gave it a 9 out of 10 as well, because I thought this, what's so funny is I thought this would have been a fantastic go home show.
Like, it really could have.
It's really, I mean, if this was a lead up to Bound for Glory, I would be like, Bound for Glory is going to be off the hook, you know. And I agree, because last year's the buildup was crap.
It was doo doo.
I mean, it was. And so far, I mean, even though last week's TNA was it wasn't horrible, this one was like spot on. They had the right formulas. They had the right formula going for this one. So hopefully next week's will be just as good, if not a little better. But if they stayed sort of at this level until the pay-per-view, I think it would be amazing. Unless this is one of those, you need a shitty build up to get to a great pay-per-view. I don't know, but I hope not. I hope that this build-up, if this build-up maintains this sort of build, then I think we could have an amazing Bound for Glory. I mean, truly.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I can't wait to talk to Andrew, because spoiler alert, he's catching up on TNA, so he's about a week behind in watching the episodes. And so I cannot wait for him to get his thoughts on all of this. This is going to be fantastic for sure. But before we sign off for the evening, I do have to do a little bit of housekeeping. Like I mentioned at the top of this episode, I'm here to give you a preview. So we have come to an end pretty much in September. September is officially, at this point, it's over. Like, we have reached the end of September. It has been great. The last 2 weeks, we've just been doing regular reviews. But between now, which starting next week, and the end of 2024, in the year of wrestling, we pretty much have a pay-per-view almost every single week leading into December. But we kick things off next week with myself, the Professor, and Minnie, as we will be reviewing WWE's Bad Blood and talk about all the crazy stuff going down. Then we will hop on over to Tacoma, Washington with the AEW crew, where Adolfo, Alice, JVL, the Professor, and myself will be reviewing AEW's Wrestle Dream. Will John Moxley be the one to retire Danielson? Like, I cannot wait. Then the following week, myself and hopefully Will, we are going to be taking on Scott D'Amore's new promotion, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, and their pay-per-view, Forged in Excellence. There's a lot of TNA talent involved in this one. Josh Alexander, Speedball Mike Bailey, Giselle Shaw, as well as those who are familiar with Ring of Honor and AEW. We have Konosuke Takeshita, Athena. This is about to be on and popping. Then all roads the week after that, myself, Andrew, and Will be doing a back-to-back Saturday and Sunday combo. Saturday, we will be doing a live watch-along of TNA's Bound for Glory. And then the following evening on Sunday, we will be doing the review. And then to round out October, it's going to be fantastic. Well, actually, Bound for Glory ends October. But fear not, the rest of the year has a bunch of stuff planned. We've got we have the last two pay-per-views for TNA and Turning Point and Final Resolution. WWE has Survivor Series, AEW has Full Gear, and World's End. It's about to be crazy for the next couple of weeks. So I hope you stick around and watch this because we are super excited to end the final stretch of 2024 with you all. But that's going to be it for us here at the Takedown Troupe. So remember, from us two, Andrew, and the rest of the BC WrestlePod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic. But more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you next week for another exciting episode of the Takedown Troupe. But until then, sayonara, adios, and we believe in Joe Hendry. We will see you later.